So this last one for today, what are we on? So we are on 934, is actually something that I was recently asked if I wanted to be part of something called a scale-up program here in the northeast of England. And what it's a publicly funded program which helps companies that want to or have plans to scale within the market, really listen to investors and talks from different people and kind of help companies kind of scale. Obviously, I teach a lot of this stuff as well. So actually, I was very honest when I talked with the guys about, am I a good fit for the program? Is it better going to someone else? We kind of agreed that actually, I think, I would get value, but hopefully I can also add value to the kind of the program as well. And one of the things that really kind of got me is that everything I've always done to date has kind of been on my own. Yes, I brought in help once or twice, but actually it's kind of just me. And I was driving back from basketball one day, and actually what kind of got me was that it can't hurt to have someone else who's offering help to support you in ideas, arguably free because it's publicly funded. And I don't have to accept the advice, but the point is you're making yourself open to new ideas. And actually, it might actually be quite nice to have someone help you, because often, especially as a solopreneur, there's so much stuff going on that you have the weight on your shoulders. So actually, I kind of agreed to do it. And then one of the things that was really interesting was that with the roadmap, I've always had in my head what the ideas and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to kind of achieve. I even talk about it on the streams, and I'm not really shy about what I wanted to do. But what was quite interesting was that when I knew that I would have a sit down with someone to kind of explain the business, explain what my plan is, and so that they can almost give me feedback and help me improve, it was really interesting to get the ideas out of my head into a pitch deck. And the reason why I'm using the example of a pitch deck as opposed to a business plan, a business plan is traditionally wordy, and nobody's going to read that. Nobody wants to read it. But actually, a pitch deck, if you make it nice and visual and that kind of thing as well. But when I went through the process, for the reason I've just talked about, where actually I know that for the roadmap to be really successful, the freemium model is massively important to do that. And to make the freemium model really work and help create the business that I really want to try and create, I actually have to do it the difficult way without investment. But in having to, I don't have to, but when I'm going to talk about the ideas to them about what I'm trying to do and why I'm trying to do it, it was still really useful to create one and actually think about the business plan, the ideas, and what would I create and how would I justify that to an investor, even if I'm not seeking investment. The first reason is to clarify ideas. Often in your head, you think, oh, I'd love to do this, I'd love to do that, I'd love to do this, or maybe about that. And often you can get swamped where you've got so many ideas and so many things going around in your head that actually you're trying to figure out what do I do, when and how. And actually to get it down on paper, what you then also get to do is iterate on it, improve it, learn from it, that kind of thing. But actually, just as any solopreneur or business owner, getting the ideas out of your head is super important. The next one is to clarify assumptions. One of the big things that you see with investor decks is that you could say the market is 27 billion people. And what you have to do is prove where your data comes from to give them confidence that what you're saying is true, that actually they can kind of believe it. Again, for a lot of people, me included, when you make assumptions about, okay, so if you have a working age population, or say if you have a population in general, so the population in the UK is give or take 80 million people, 66% of that is working age. So people actually might be in their career, I guess. So that's still a lot of people. But then actually what percentage of those are interested in business education? What percentage of those are interested in personal development? But when you actually kind of do your homework, which is when you, for me with the Blue Ocean strategy, start to wind and build your thinking about where your niche is, going through, putting it on paper, but actually researching and clarifying your assumptions as if you would to an investor who you want to give you £10 million. It's a really interesting process to go through that actually I'm in a better, more strategic, better planned, better organized position now than before I created the pitch deck, if that makes sense. Yeah, I've mentioned about, getting things out of your head, but one of the other big ones as well is through pricing. So I've mentioned how for the roadmap, my longer term plan is to create a freemium model where basically it goes with the mission, but I want to make business education accessible. That for a lot of people who, they might watch the occasional one of these, they might have a sideline, they might want to start a hustle, but they wouldn't really put any money into it. My wife would fall into that category, that she's very good at what she does. She wants the knowledge, but she's not really going to invest time and effort and money into it as where I would. But the point is, with the freemium model, you almost get to tap into that pool of people and give them value in a way that, you know, will help you reach a wider audience and help some kind of bigger stuff. But when you actually come to do your pricing and your revenue structures, what I found really interesting was that when I went through my gut feel prices for, you have the freemium bit, I have a public sector price, which is where if a local council was to buy 1,000 courses for every business in their district, what would that price be? Then I'm going to have two private sector prices, one much lower than the other one, but you get different stuff kind of from it. But when you actually go through a pitch deck and you work on your pricing, the original price for the public sector one, I was looking at maybe £50 per person per year, which is still very cheap. But then when I worked out the maths and the economics to actually pay it back, because actually these cost me quite a lot of money, and then with the buy one gift one and the shipping and everything else, it was only through actually creating the pitch deck I figured out that actually £50 wasn't going to be enough to really kind of make it work. So it had to be, say, 70. But I would never have known that if I hadn't actually been through this kind of process. And then when you actually kind of fast forward the multiples, okay, so if it's £70 per person per year and I sell 5,000 a year, what does that work out to? And it was just the basic premise of actually when you start to build your ideas and put stuff down on paper, it is super valuable. So even if you have a cupcake shop or you're a copywriter or you're a marketer or whatever, actually put down the goal, the ambition, what is it you want to do? And actually what you're doing is creating a shareable document which allows you to communicate better with kind of others. And one of the things that I am actually a little bit tempted to do is that in my pitch deck, I talk about the blue ocean strategy and how I sit against competitors and why I'm doing various kind of different things. That actually I'm tempted to make that public. I'll strip out some of the costs and stuff, just to really explain to people that if you are in a business audience, it might be interesting to really look at businesses which hopefully you can understand the roadmap and how do I compare against the university and a Udemy course and YouTube and a book or do nothing or whichever. And actually it's a really interesting process. So just for you, even if you have no plans to actually seek investment, or you're just quite happy doing what you're doing, creating an investor pitch deck or your business plan or whichever is actually really useful. And almost when you know that someone might see it at certain points, it makes you just want to clarify your messages and do stuff as good as possible. And it was just something I kind of wanted to mention.